Bentrovati ragazzi, io sono la professoressa Lobello e qui accanto a me c'è la professoressa Moroni. Siamo entrambi docenti di lingua inglese dell'Istituto Ruiz di Augusta. La nostra lezione tratterà delle fake news. Today our lesson is about fake news, a very actual issue. In this particular moment, for all of us, a clear and credible information is very important. Nowadays, information spreads quickly through internet and the social media everywhere around the world. But during the coronavirus pandemic, fake news is putting life at risk, as the according to which lemon juice or garlic could save our life. But this type of fakes is very dangerous. Before sharing any health news or any other type of information, we have to pay attention and check the accuracy of these articles. And it's always better to use credible sources as a government websites or the World Health Organization.
Let's get started giving a look at these three main points that we are going to cover during our lesson today. The first point regards the meaning of fake news, to find out what we mean by fake news. In the past and even in some dictionary today, there isn't a definition for fake news, because it is considered self-explanatory. Fake news is a news that is fake, not true. But today in reality is not this anymore. It has extra layers of meaning, so we need to find a clear definition of what it is. But we have also to explain the reason why it is created, why it spread so quickly, and to understand the reason why we all tend to believe it and share easily on social media. The second point is how to spot the difference between real and fake. We will see how difficult it is sometimes to make this distinction. So we are going to find those tools that can help us to make this important difference, not only on news but also on sites. In the end, we will learn how to analyze in a critical way a site or a piece of news.
Now, let's look at this image. It represents, as you can see clearly, an ox, the animal that in Italian is called bufala. But why do you think we have decided to show you this image? Because the message we want to give you is never stop at the first impression. Actually, what we see isn't always as it seems. In this image, ox is not only the animal that we have just seen in the photo, but it also indicates a way to deceive people. And with this meaning is similar to fake news. So, hoax, in this case, communicates the idea that nothing is as it seems, and we must beware of false information. Although fake news has become so common and widespread over the last few years, fake news isn't exactly a new thing. In fact, there are a lot of examples of fake news throughout history. The difference is that in the past it was easier to spot fake news because, as you can see in this picture, the joke was evident. Let's read the title. Dick Cheney is a robot. It's a joke. Let's now, to understand better, look at this other example of historical fake news. This was published in 1835 by the New York Sun, and it's about the discovery of life on the moon. While these other reports, Mark Twain was dying in poverty. Obviously, it was a false news. One of the most famous is this reference to The War of the Worlds, a realistic radio drama about a Martian invasion on Earth. It was the year 1938, and Orson Welles, an actor and filmmaker, introduced the play saying, "Martians have landed in New Jersey." But even if it was said several times that it was a theatrical performance, this show is said to have caused mass panic, hysteria. But the evidence showed the fact didn't happen really in this way, and only few people believed this incredible story. So, anyway, this fake what proved that we learn to believe in false news when these agree with our fears or belief. This other page is Moon Oaks. Why moon hoax? This other photo refers to a famous historical event, the first moonwalk. It's the 1969, the 20th of July, and Neil Armstrong and Aldrin were the first human beings to walk on the moon. The so-called moon hoaxes, it refers to the conspiracy theories about moon landing. Conspiracy theorists, in fact, say that the entire mission was a well-done hoax created and staged by NASA, with the help of filmmaker Kubrick. After the publication in 1976 of a book entitled "We Never Went to the Moon by Casing," in 1978 the producer Peter Hyams had the idea to produce a movie, Capricorn 1, that showed how easy it could have been to fake the news of the landing on the moon, and he filmed the entire video in a TV studio. The result was a powerful example of how technology and trust in the media source could create an incredible fake news.
As we have seen, fake news has been around for a long time. But what is fake news? What we need now is a clear definition. Let's read this one taken from the Cambridge Dictionary. Fake news, false stories that appear to be news spread on the internet or using other media, usually created to influence political views or as a joke. Let's focus on some words in particular. False stories, to influence political views, and to joke. Let's read another one, taken this time from dictionary.com. False news stories, often of a sensational nature, created to be widely shared or distributed for the purpose of generating revenue or promoting or discrediting a public figure, political movement, company, etc. This second definition is close to the first one, but it adds an important point. For the purpose of generating revenue, that means to gain money. So if we sum up these two definitions, we have that fake news is created with the purpose to influence public opinion, to gain money, and to joke. Let's start with the last one, we joke. Not all the news are created to influence or to deceive. Sometimes the purpose is joke, a satire, so with the intent to amuse and also to make a point. Let's clarify this with two articles that present the same news with a completely different strategy. In 2015, Obama, that at the time was the United States president, decided to stop the construction of the last part of an oil pipeline system to protect the environment. The first article was published by The Guardian, a serious newspaper with a high reputation, and as we can see, the title, Obama Blocks the Pipeline, goes directly to the point, and also the image with the protesters is a clear comment to the news. The second one, instead, is taken from The Onion, a famous satirical digital media, and from the title, Keystone Veto buys the environment at least 3 or 4 more hours, is clear that is a joke. And also the image of Obama with, let's say, an uncertain expression seems a perfect comment to the title, because we have to remember that satire is used not only to make us laugh, but also to make a point, to make us think about an issue. It is a satire, but there is also the intent to underline the fact that one isolated act was and is not enough to protect the environment.
Let's now analyze another point. Here we have an example of fake news used to influence public opinion, our political view. That means that it can regard every aspect of our life. It's like the No Vax campaign, for example. This is in particular referred to the last presidential campaign, and the target is Hillary Clinton. It is fabricated to damage her reputation. Let's read to understand better. WikiLeaks confirmed Hillary Clinton sold weapons to ISIS. Damaging the reputation of a person or a group by saying or writing bad things about them that are not true is a crime. Today is common the online defamation on social media, Facebook, Twitter, blogs, websites. Finally, let's see the third point, as we said before, the financial gain. Why is it important? Why it is so easy to gain money from the spread of fake news? Because the advertisements that we can see next to a fake news are placed there by advertiser. So each time we click on one of these, the website creator receives money. So much crazier is the story, much greater is interest. More are the clicks and the more is money. And this slide helps you to understand better this simple but and sometimes misleading mechanism. At this point, we may think that telling fake news from a real one is easy, but it's not so. Look at these other two articles. In the first one, we have an Australian boy who plotted a terrorist attack using kangaroo. In the second one, instead, the headline reminds us that taking a photo of the Eiffel Tower at night is illegal. If we read only the headlines, they seem both a little bit incredible, and they could be both fake or both real, or one fake and the other real. It's quite impossible to decide what is real and what is false. In this case, they are both true. So, only if we arm and use critical thinking and fact-checking, we can recognize it. Now, we are going to watch a short video that will explain what strategies adopt to individuate a fake news.
Fake news is nothing new, but bogus stories can reach more people more quickly via social media than what good old-fashioned viral emails could accomplish in years past. A lot of these viral claims aren't news at all, but fiction, satire, and efforts to fool readers into thinking they're for real. Here are some strategies to shield yourself from fake news. Are you familiar with the source? Is it legitimate? Has it been reliable in the past? If not, you may not want to trust it. If a provocative headline drew your attention, read a little further before you decide to pass along the shocking information. Even in legitimate news stories, the headline doesn't always tell the whole story. But fake news, particularly efforts to be satirical, can include several revealing signs in the text. One fake story even attributed a quote to a dolphin. If that had been real, you could argue they buried the lead. Another telltale sign of a fake story is often the byline, if there even is one. And in some cases, the authors are not even real. One story was credited to a doctor who won 14 Peabody Awards and a handful of Pulitzer Prizes, which would be very impressive if it wasn't also totally made up. Many times these bogus stories will cite official or official-sounding sources, but once you look into it, the source doesn't back up the claim. Some false stories aren't completely fake, but rather distortions of real events. These mendacious claims can take a legitimate news story and twist what it says, or even claim that something that happened long ago is related to current events. One deceptive website took a story that was over a year old from CNN and slapped on a new, misleading headline and publication date. So on top of the deception, there was copyright infringement. Remember, there is such a thing as satire. Normally it's clearly labeled as such, and sometimes it's even funny. But it isn't the news. And then there's the more debatable forms of satire, designed to pull one over on the reader. These posts are also designed to encourage clicks and generate money for the creator through ad revenue. But they aren't news. We know this is difficult. Confirmation bias leads people to put more stock in information that confirms their beliefs and discount information that doesn't. But the next time you're automatically appalled at some social media post concerning, say, a politician you oppose, take a moment to check it out. Try this simple test. What other stories have been posted to the news website that is the source of the story that just popped up in your social media feed? You may be predisposed to believe a story about a politician you don't like, but if the alleged news site also features a story about Guardians from Antarctica retaliating against America by hitting New Zealand with an earthquake, maybe you should think twice before sharing. And yes, that earthquake story is a real example of a fake story that popped up. We know you're busy, and some of this debunking takes time, but fact-checkers get paid to do this kind of work. Between factcheck.org, Snopes.com, the Washington Post Fact Checker, and PolitiFact.com, it's likely at least one has already fact-checked the latest viral claim to pop up in your social media newsfeed. And remember, newsreaders themselves remain the first line of defense against fake news. To see more, go to factcheck.org.
So, as we have seen in this short but interesting video, if we wanted to be sure not to fall for fake news, we have to take in consideration some important points. We can read some of them together, look at the headline, check the author. But let's use these points to analyze this page and looks like a newspaper. First of all, you have to take a closer look. Don't just read down the page, read around it. Check the small details and ask yourself some important questions. First of all, check the source, the website. Who publishes the information? Is it credible? Is it a well-known agency or is it a personal blog? In this case, are there opinion or facts? Look at the headline. Here we have "Pigs fly over New York." For sure a catchy headline. If you find a headline that are using sensational or shocking words, or words that make you react emotionally, maybe is a fake. Check the author. If there isn't, is a sign that you have to pay attention. Check if he or she has a reputation for journalistic integrity. Check the facts. Check the story. If is too good, too incredible, maybe it is. Check for the layout, for the grammar and spelling mistakes. Check other sources. That means that you have to cross-check all the information that you have found. And then you have to check our biases. That means that we have to ask ourselves if our beliefs are affecting our judgment. We have to learn to read, keeping a certain distance, keeping an objective perspective. And in the end, you have to ask yourself if what you are reading is a joke, because sometimes articles are there not to deceive us, but to make us laugh.
At this point of our discussion, the question is, why do we fall for fake news? The answer is very simple, because it's easy. Remember that who creates fake news wants to deceive us, and the copying, clicking, the sharing content online has certainly helped this type of article to spread quickly. So, usually it's very well done with headlines that attract our attention, like this one. Supermodel applied 3 simple tricks to look young. But we also fall for fake news because we often tend to trust our friends or person we admire. So if they publish something, we share without thinking. On the other hand, who creates fake news? Try to manipulate our emotion, because they are perfectly aware that motivated by strong feelings, we are more likely to react and share without thinking. So, how to behave to avoid falling for fake news? Well, we should think twice before sharing some content, and above all, pay more attention. Now, we are going to show you another video that explains how fake news can spread. We'll let you watch it and we'll come back in a few minutes.
There's a quote usually attributed to the writer Mark Twain that goes, "A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is putting on its shoes." Funny thing about that, there's reason to doubt that Mark Twain ever said this at all, thus, ironically, proving the point. And today, the quote, "Whoever said it," is truer than ever before. In previous decades, most media with global reach consisted of several major newspapers and networks which had the resources to gather information directly. Outlets like Reuters and the Associated Press that aggregate or re-report stories were relatively rare compared to today. The speed with which information spreads now has created the ideal conditions for a phenomenon known as circular reporting. This is when publication A publishes misinformation, publication B reprints it, and publication A then cites B as the source for the information. It's also considered a form of circular reporting when multiple publications report on the same initial piece of false information, which then appears to another author as having been verified by multiple sources. For instance, the 1998 publication of a single pseudoscientific paper arguing that routine vaccination of children causes autism inspired an entire anti-vaccination movement, despite the fact that the original paper has repeatedly been discredited by the scientific community. Deliberately unvaccinated children are now contracting contagious diseases that had been virtually eradicated in the United States, with some infections proving fatal. In a slightly less dire example, satirical articles that are formatted to resemble real ones can also be picked up by outlets not in on the joke. For example, a joke article in the reputable British Medical Journal entitled "Energy Expenditure in Adolescents Playing New Generation Computer Games" has been referenced in serious science publications over 400 times. User-generated content such as wikis are also a common contributor to circular reporting. As more writers come to rely on such pages for quick information, an unverified fact in a wiki page can make its way into a published article that may later be added as a citation for the very same wiki information, making it much harder to debunk. Recent advances in communication technology have had immeasurable benefits in breaking down the barriers between information and people. But our desire for quick answers may overpower the desire to be certain of their validity. And when this bias can be multiplied by billions of people around the world nearly instantaneously, more caution is in order. Avoiding sensationalist media, searching for criticisms of suspicious information, and tracing the original source of a report can help slow down a lie, giving the truth more time to put on its shoes.
So, as we have seen in this video, one of the main reasons for the spread of fake news is a technique known as circular reporting. That means that a newspaper publishes a news and a second newspaper or a site republishes the same news, and the first uses the second as a source for the information. That means that in the end we don't know who is the source of the news and everything becomes unclear. But of course it's not only this. Circular reporting works well because it is used in combination with social network. In the past, before internet and social media, information were spread according to a model known as one-way top-down. That means that we all received the same news from a trusted source. So from the top trusted source down to all of us. Nowadays, instead, we have a network model, so no one is on the top, and we are all on the same level. That means that we share news on our account, and all our friends that take that news for granted are going to share it, and are their friends, and again, and the process never stops. The result is that we have thousands of different information about everything, and most of them are inaccurate or false.
Look at this article. Can drinking lemon juice kill coronavirus? This is an evident example of fake news, because there is no scientific evidence that this recipe based on lemon can cure or prevent the coronavirus. As reported in an article published by politifact.com on the 20th of March, this false news begins with a video on Facebook Messenger made by a man that at first says to be a Chinese researcher, but actually he promotes alternative health information on YouTube. He is a certain Gorban. Published also on Viral Magazine.it, Fan Magazine.it, and many other relevant websites. This is an example of a false news that, thanks to the thousands of sharing or social media posts, it has become viral very quickly. What is also important to underline is that a false news suggesting a cure is also very dangerous to circulate, that certain components of a normal diet can be consumed in excess. So, pay attention to this kind of information that can put at risk our life, and follow the official health canals.
We have seen that fake news spreads quickly thanks to social media. So in this moment, more than ever, being able to distinguish between fact and opinion, fake and real, is an essential skill for our life. Let's now focus our attention on the first point. It makes people believe false things. That means that we don't have correct information. But information shapes our worldview. We make important decisions based on information. So if the information we read or see is invented or is false or is exaggerated, we want to make good decisions, and this could have impact in all spheres of our life. On our health, for instance, if we believe that without a proper diet we can lose 33 pounds, or we can make decisions moved by our fear and stop eating Walmart bananas because of HIV contamination, or even worse, by racism, as in this fake picture of a bus with 6 Muslim ladies. The image was published on social media and it was shared immediately by thousands of people, and it was described as scary, frightening, and tragic. These are strong words, considering that is a simple picture with 6 ladies sat on a bus. It could also interfere with democracy if we believe, for instance, that this news where the Pope endorsed Trump is true. Maybe we can vote following an emotional reaction and make a mistake. So fake news can alter our confidence in facts. We may start to think that everything we read and we find on internet is untrue. But of course, not everything is fake. So it is up to us to choose the source of our information and to discover the truth.
There are different types of false information. With the term false information, we refer to news, story, or hoaxes created with the intent to deceive readers in a deliberate way. There are different kinds of false information. Stories created to influence people's views or to increase someone's gain. Let's see the most important. From clickbait, that can be an article or a photo on the internet, on a website, and that is created to catch people's attention or encourage them to read on. To propaganda, stories created to mislead audiences or to influence their political ideas. Look at this famous American poster, for example, created to encourage young men to enlist in the army during the First World War. And finally, we see also satire that want to entertain and make us think about a particular subject. And finally, misleading headings, or those stories that even if are not completely false, however they use such sensational headlines to distort reality. At this point, try to sum up all these types of information described. In order to have no doubts, look at this scheme that can help you to understand better the difference among the various kinds of false information explained before.
We have seen how to spot fake news, but we cannot forget to say that even some sites deceive people. For this reason, it is important for us to focus our attention on some essential points. For instance, read the About page, verify key quotes. But let's try some of these points on a real site. Here we have a site all about Explorer. What you have to do is to slow down, check all the page, and look with attention, for instance, at the address bar, at the HTTPS. That means that if there is an S, the S stands for secure. So if the website doesn't use the S, you have to pay attention. On secure site, on the address bar, you will see also a small padlock. Here again, it means that it is secure. Then you have to pay attention to the end of the address, the .com. Here, for instance, there is .com, and that means that is a sure site. Sometimes fake sites have addresses that mimic those of real companies or large brands. So, for instance, we have abcnews.com, that is the real one, but instead abcnews.com.co, that is false. Pay attention also if there are the words WordPress or Blogger, that usually reports opinion but not facts. Read the contact section. A real site must have at least a phone number and email that are working. Check the terms and conditions section that usually are at the bottom of the page. If there aren't, you have to pay attention.
But to be sure that it's a serious site, it would be better to check who is the author. If he is well known or easily identifiable, if he has written about other similar topics, and what are his credentials. If we can decide to check the content, and we can click on Explorers. Let's now take a quick look at the author's page. From the beginning, some details capture our attention. Some authors' names are anonymous. Look at the MBA, DDS. All their credentials not relevant and rather bizarre. When he's not swimming and mopping, or the psychiatric that is better known for a jam. Moreover, it's important to check the layout of the page, to look for grammar errors, incredible dates, or out of context things. Verify key quotes and links to a study or another source if the website mentions it. If the story seems too incredible, take time and read again. Remember what we said before. Fake news play with our emotion, trying to make us believe without discussion what we are reading. Now, go on choosing an explorer we prefer, for example, Columbus, and verify the accuracy of the information. Check the date or the place, like in 1951 or Sydney. Verify historical reference or incongruities, like riches or jewels. Or out of context, things like cell phone or desktop computer. If you want to analyze and compare what you already know with other information, click instead on Treasure Hunts. In conclusion, after having described the essential point to recognize a fake site, we can affirm that the site we have widely analyzed is certainly a site not secure. It's a fake site.
We live in a world where stories and news are shared in seconds. We have endless connectivity, but this has a high price, fake news. At times we may feel lost and start to think that everything we read or listen to is false, is fake. It seems impossible to stop them, but it's up to us, to each of us, to decide what is important and what is not. It is up to us to make sure that the news we read are real. So every time we read something, we have to pay attention, to check the source and use our critical thinking. When in doubt, don't share. Stop a minute and maybe you can use this short anagram that forms the word real to help us make some light. E con questo è tutto, ragazzi. Grazie e arrivederci.